tallyandtwine.com. Yes, that's tallyandtwine.com, where you can find beautiful watches for men and for women, made here in the United States, made here in the great state of Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia. That's right, made in America, made in Virginia, and made in Portsmouth. tallyandtwine.com. Great watches for the men. Look at these beautiful watches. Aren't they nice, masculine, really attractive? And these sexy watches for our beautiful ladies. tallyandtwine.com. This is my favorite watch. This is the watch I personally own. tallyandtwine.com, made in Virginia, made in America. It's time for you to get a high quality watch from Tally and Twine. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I have my Tally and Twine watch with me right here. It's my fave. It's my fave. She's my baby. She's my baby. So go visit Tally and Twine. As you can see, it's Melanated owned. It's made in the United States. Salute that. Hey, it's your man Seiko Varner. Time for another great episode of the Fly Guy Show. Get on Code, the Fly Guy Show. And you know, the Get on Code show is a show where we really focus on things that can really improve our community. O-U-R, capital O-U-R, improve our community. And we have conversations about it. So today, as you can see on the screen, we have the Urban Finance, good brother, Caden. How you doing, Caden?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Can't complain. You know,
Good
it's good to be here.
Good stuff. And with Caden, the foundation, she's not on the bottom. She's the foundation here. That's our team leader, good Taniki Riddick. Taniki, how you doing, Queen?
I'm doing better than amazing. Thank you for having me, Seiko. Honored to be here with you.
Ashe. Taniki is one of the leaders in the new consciousness that I'm having with finance, and in studying some of the things that Taniki brought me into understanding, I ran into this information. Caden with the Urban Finance. And I tell you, when I look at your YouTube channel, I'm actually looking at your Twitter page now. I see you, and I'm assuming that's your lovely wife.
Yeah, that's my beautiful wife right there. That's my queen.
Okay. I thought it might have been your daughter or your wife. She looks so young.
I know.
Okay, good. But this is what blew me away. You went from 0 to 45K in less than 2 years. What went from 0 to 45K in less than 2 years? And for those who don't, are just checking us out, we're talking about Melanated Wealth. They paid off $120,000 in 2 years. 2 is an interesting number for you, man. You paid off $120K in 2 years, and you went from 0 to 45 in 2 years. Okay.
Yeah,
How'd you do it?
So we can start with this particular one. So I always tell people I like to keep my investments simple, to be quite frank about it. So I do more complicated investments. So, I don't even know if I can say it here or I should be saying it, but I just picked up some stocks in the cannabis industry. One, Aurora, that just doubled, and so, don't show the church folks. Don't show the church folks that. But,
hold up. Don't show the church folk that. Now, if I'm correct, and you're probably going to correct me, doesn't it say somewhere in Genesis that we're supposed to use the plants of the earth as our medicine and in our food? Am I correct?
Yes,
you're correct in terms of what it says in Genesis. Now, depending on who you are, you might have a different interpretation of what that means. And that's how it kind of boils down a lot of times. A lot of things, different people interpret it differently, and we act based on those our own interpretations of it. So it's an interesting conversation to have.
It is. So we brought up the church piece, so we'll have to bring that into understanding because we add a little context to it. So look, I'm a PK. I grew up in the church. All right, and I said a little earlier that my leader Taniki is a little churchy.
I am absolutely in the church.
And Caden, you're actually a associate minister.
Yeah, I'm an associate pastor of a church, so that's my full-time full-time responsibility or ministry, I would say full-time ministry. So, and it's certainly a blessing.
All
And
right,
I think,
well, praise the Lord, Pastor Sword. Go ahead, bro.
I always go back to, and this is one of my favorite books here. It just happened to, it's always right here. Blueprint for Black Power.
Yes, Amos
by
Wilson.
Amos Wilson. Love this book. He has a chapter on how the church can help Black people with economic empowerment, and how the church, in many ways, some churches he highlighted did a good job, but in many ways, many churches fail the Black community in its ability to generate wealth, and teaching people how to generate wealth, and using the church as a wealth building institution in the community. And so that's one of the things that I love, that I'm in a place where I can educate people in multiple ways about why it's important to grow wealth.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, tell us about how you went from 0 to 45K. So I'm assuming this was in stocks. So was that in cannabis stocks?
Yeah. So no, that wasn't in the cannabis industry. That was simple investing. And so you mentioned before how we were able to pay off $120,000 within 2 years. And what that allowed us to do is free up a lot of cash flow in order to invest in the stock markets. And so just consistently investing in VGT and as well as the S&P 500 allow me to capture these types of returns. And, even if you take a look at how much VGT, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but VGT may have ran up about 40% or something like that more this year. The S&P 500 year over year, I think for the last few years, probably have averaged about 20% or more return. And so just being a consistent investor of putting your money aside, but first paying off all of those debt, free up cash in order to invest in the market. And so I would say this was just one of my investment accounts. So this wasn't even the entirety of our portfolio. This was just one account, but it was just honestly freeing up that money and having several side hustles and not using those money to buy assets that didn't generate income, but buying assets that generated income. And it seems hard, but it's really not that hard, because even this year, my mom started off with $0 and is almost on her way to 5 figures in her investment account. And so it seems hard, but it's not hard with consistency.
Wow. You actually just dropped a number of gems.
Yes.
You just dropped and we're going to have to kind of unpack some of those things. So first of all, you mentioned, and my background in finances, I used to be a financial service provider. I got involved with what Taniki runs, and we're helping people with debt consolidation and credit repair.
Nice.
Also do private money lending. I do a couple of things. Let me throw my picture up very quickly. This is how I pay for the channel. So we do credit fixes, tax resolution, lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidation. One of the reasons that I think that this is important is for this. And I'm sorry to cover you up, Sister Taniki.
No, you're fine.
But one of our ancestors in my family paid $1.64 as a poll tax in 1946 in Virginia Beach, Virginia, so that they could vote. Political power and financial power, many ways, go hand in hand. And so they call me Mr. Empowerment. I really focus on helping people understand empowerment via political leverage, and how we can gain economically through leverage. So one of the things that you said that I think we need to unpack is you paid off your debts and then you went heavy on the investments. Is that the way that you're supposed to do it? Should you pay off your debts first? And I know the answer. Should you pay off your debts first and then go into the investment piece, or should you try to invest to pay off your debts?
So this is the way I put it for people, especially if you have high interest credit cards. There's no reason to not eliminate those first. And because a lot of people, to be honest, and you said you're in a credit repair, a lot of people in our community have some credit cards paying 20, 25, 30% interest. And so you're not necessarily getting that type of return from the market. And so one of the best possible things you can do for yourself is pay off those credit card bill. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get you're working for a company that has a 3% match, I would personally say take that match, because that's 100% interest on your money, and that's free money. But above that, you should really be looking to eliminate those credit cards, because the average person isn't getting 15, 20, 25, 30, 35% on their dollar when they invest in the market. And so you're losing more money than you're actually bringing in when you do it out of order.
Interesting. Taniki, I know you help people with credit repair. What do you tell them? Because credit repair is dealing with credit and dealing with debts. What do you tell them?
That's the same thing that he just said. It does make sense to actually pay off your debt and reduce that interest that you're dealing with the credit. Because again, if you're dealing with a high interest rate, you're basically throwing your money out of the window. So yes, you do absolutely want to eliminate that debt and reduce that high interest rate. That's a must.
Okay. But I think most people tuned in today, and we'll unpack some of the other things you said, because you went heavy in on the investment piece, and I definitely want to dive down that rabbit hole. But I first want to start then, if we got to pay off our debts first. And, since, she's churchy, you're a associate pastor, we can go into the spiritual thing with it. There are things you have to do to get things, throughout any of the holy books. We can tap in with the Bible for this one, the canonized Bible. There's always a sacrifice to get a bigger blessing. And one of the things you have to do, when this is how my father taught me, is you have to do what you promised to do. When you took out some of this debt, you promised to pay it back. And when you follow your promises, then, the law of reciprocity means you're going to get more. And that's that blessing that comes afterwards. So I see, from a spiritual standpoint, paying off the debt first and then sowing the seed seems like is right aligned with it. So, but you're the pastor dude. So am I right on? Am I on?
No, you're right. You're right on target. I think the sacrifice is one of it, and the Bible is very clear on this. And this is probably one of my favorite scriptures in relationship to this. The borrower is slave to the lender, and the rich rule over the poor. And the rich rule over the poor because the borrower is a slave to the lender. And so as long as you're financially dependent on somebody else, that person will be your master. And so we may have been emancipated from a physical slavery, but we are still enslaved to the people that we owe our debt to. And so there are a lot of people who are unable to spend time with their families, even in the midst of a pandemic, and may have to go to work and even risk dying because they have financial obligations that they can't afford to not meet, because they'll end up on the street. And so I think this pandemic has really allowed us to see how much our lives are on the line by not being financially responsible. One of the things that people always would say, and Black folks and church folks always have a saying to disregard, or a negative saying towards building wealth. And so if you say, I'm trying to save and invest for my future, they may say tomorrow's not promised. If you say, I'm putting away money in the stock market for my children, they may say, the love of money is the root of all evil. There's always a saying for why we should not be focused on building wealth. And for me, that has always baffled me. That there is it's so much negativity in our community, in the Black community, around building wealth. And so people are more likely to discourage you when you try to build wealth. But like I said, I think this pandemic has shown us that no one is safe, and that the borrower is truly a slave to the lender. Because if you're forced to go to work when your child is at home, one, and then you may bring that sickness back home to your child, then what can I say? And so I think this season has taught people, and some people has come to the realization, but some still will take a little while, that it's important to build wealth. So at times like this, when you want to take a stand, you can. A lot of times people are silent because they have a paycheck riding on it. I remember even Nick Cannon, just a little while back, he said some stuff and got in trouble with some people who controlled the purse string. And then, even if he believed that, he had to pull that back in because, he's a lot of these rappers are usually in so much debt that they need that constant flow of income. And so it's not even about making a high income, but it's making sure that you're not financially enslaved to somebody else. So for me, it's all about financial independence, which for me is having enough passive income flow to sustain my lifestyle, whatever that lifestyle looks like. And a lot of rappers are not there. A lot of musicians, actors are not there.
Wow. They're not there. They're not there. Man. So how did you get there? How did you pay off $120,000 of debt in 2 years?
And like, again, the solution is simple: blood, sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears. And one of the things that we had to do is serious delayed gratification. And so, there were a lot of times, because if you do the math, 120,000, that's about $5,000 a month if we broke it out over several months. And so for a lot of people, there are a lot of things you can do with $5,000 a month other than pay off debt. You could literally, if you wanted to, go on vacation every month with $5,000 a month. You could literally probably buy yourself the best luxury car in the world with $5,000 a month. You can buy yourself the nicest house, probably on most people blocks, with even just $5,000 a month. But it's really saying to yourself, okay, what do I want in life? And is it more important than all of these material things? And like I said, financial independence is very important to my wife and I. And so we made the sacrifice of not doing all those things. And for instance, one of the things my wife personally had to do is get off of social media. And because it's hard to want to pay off your debt when you see everyone else living this luxurious lifestyle. One of the things that I had to do is, maybe not buy things for the house, or, I was even delayed my martial arts class because I like doing martial arts, and I was doing Muay Thai, and I said, I'm gonna wait till after we get out of this to do. And so there's a lot of things we had to sacrifice in order to have the discipline to stop spending. I didn't buy any new clothes or any new shoes or anything. Really, it was a sacrifice. And I know people are saying, "Ooh, 5,000, that's a lot of money, to have that much free cash flow." But the truth is, imagine having an extra $5,000, but not having a couch in your house. We had no couch in our apartment. And I know people were looking funny when they came over to our place. And for us, we just refused to buy the couch, even though we can say we'll take 2,000 out of the 5 and buy the couch. But as long as we owed somebody else, then that money really wasn't ours. And so we didn't feel like going further in debt to buy a couch when we had 3 bar stools in our crib, and we only needed 2 at the time. And so those are the sacrifices that most people are just unwilling to make, and unwilling to make. We didn't go out to eat. My wife loves going out to eat, and so we did some things that kind of replaced some of those. So Movie Pass was big back then. And I don't know if people are familiar with Movie Pass, but it was like you paid like $10 a month, and you can go to as many movies as you want. And so we had a Movie Pass, and that was our thing. We just went to see a bunch of movies. But one of the biggest sacrifice that we made was my wife wanted to go to Thailand for her 30th birthday, and her birthday was in May. And she made the call to say, babe, I know we save, we technically have and can go to Thailand, but let's wait till we finish pay off our debt before we go to Thailand. And then we end up going to Thailand in October. That was hard for her, and that was hard for me, because as a man, I want to give my wife everything that she desires. But, what's more important? And for us, to be in a place where we didn't have to work if we didn't need to was more important.
Wow.
Wow, that's deep. Well, what do you think, Taniki? Any thoughts?
Yeah, what he's saying is spot on. Again, the pandemic to me exposed that a lot of Americans are working and they were not financially prepared. They didn't have the money to hold themselves over for 5 months. That spoke huge. It was a wake-up call for a lot of people in America. And again, like he said about the sacrifice, that's huge. We have to be willing to sacrifice and do what others won't do in order to have what we want to have, and that's financial freedom. So you are dead on. I love this. This is some great information. I love it.
Interesting. So it came down to get the blessing, you gave up the sacrifice.
Yeah, to get the blessing.
You did the sacrifice. Yeah.
You had to make the sacrifice, to get the blessing. And that goes back to, and so one of my other channels, so Urban Finance is one of my YouTube channels, but I actually have another YouTube channel called Black Books Animated, where I do reviews of Black books. And because one of the things that I'm passionate about is reading. I love reading. Like I show you Dr. Amos Wilson's book that was actually part of a Black book club that I read. And one of the books that really changed my mind, 2 books really, was one, Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, and the other book was the biography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. And those books really inspired me personally to make the sacrifices that others wouldn't make for my community, because I know I can do it. I know that I could be in a place to build serious wealth where I can change things in the lives of my family and the lives of my community. And it's a hard thing to say, but not everyone is willing to make certain type of sacrifices. I honestly believe anyone can be wealthy, but not everyone is willing to make the sacrifice. But what I do know from human nature, people are more willing to follow someone who's actually doing what they think may be impossible, or who's showing them how to do it. And so, I talk about all of my success openly on my channel. So our net worth at the age of 30 is over $250,000. And that, and just 4 years ago, we were at a negative net worth, because we still had that $120,000. And so if we can do that much really over the course of a little less than 4 years, to go from 120 to positive 250, imagine how much we can do over the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. And I feel like that type of message inspires people to be more and do more. Other thing that I do workshops, and I show people, even if my wife and I were to stop investing now, we would have enough money to retire comfortably by the traditional retirement age, just based on compound interest on our money. And when people see math like that, they're like, okay, maybe it is worth making a huge sacrifice. And so that's the type of stuff like I really try to get across to people. If you make a sacrifice early now, then it will pay off so much in your future. Charlie Munger is known for saying the first 100,000 is the hardest. And some people say the first 100,000 is a beat. But once you get past that, and I always call it, growing up, they said there was no money tree. Your parents will always say, what you think, I have a money tree? But I honestly think investing has become that money tree for me, because I don't have to do anything and I'm earning these benefits.
Beautiful, beautiful. You just talked about growing up. Now, you're a Trini, right? You're from Trinidad and
Yeah.
Tobago, right?
Born in Trinidad and Tobago.
So, what kind of messages did you receive as a, as a young head in Trinidad and Tobago around money?
And to be honest, as far as I know, in Trinidad and probably still that way, there was no stock market. The biggest thing that we had back in the Caribbean was susu, and because also people didn't have credit, the availability of credit like they do in the United States, we would have to pool our money together in order to a lot of times buy things that were super expensive. And so you can do a small susu, which may pay out every two months, or you can do a big susu, which may pay out every 6 months, and you can be getting a 30, 40, $50,000 payout to buy a home, $100,000 payout to buy a home. And keeping in mind also, there's about a 6-to-1 ratio between the Trini, TT, and the US dollar. But, we had to work as a community in order to advance ourselves economically. And I still think a lot of those things still apply today and can be beneficial to various communities. Now, I still do a susu with my family now. I use the susu to pay for my master degree. And so, I've always benefited from it. And I will say this, I don't know if you guys have ever talked about this. I'm not a huge fan of the blessing room, to be honest. And it's huge in Trinidad right now. They call it the DSS. And somebody just got raided by the cops. I think some people say maybe $20 million he had in his home from the DSS. And but yeah, Susu for me was, beneficial growing up. That was my foundations on finances. But, like I said, when I started reading like Dr. Claude Anderson books and even Malcolm X, that really got me in the mind of community economic empowerment and what can be my contribution to move the Black community forward.
Could you explain to us what's the difference between the susu and that blessing flower? Because that has been a topic and a conversation during this pandemic. And a lot of people that I know have ran to those blessing flowers. And I've heard people from other countries say that susu actually worked for them. So could you explain the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I actually have a video on my channel that has over 200,000 views talking about this exact subject. And the big difference is the blessing loom is structured as a pyramid, essentially, which means that the money flows upstream. But that also means with a pyramid scheme like this, where there is no product, eventually you will run out of a supply. And so the blessing loom is usually 8-to-1. So eight people pay one person. So let's just say $100, for instance. 8 people pay this one person that paid $800, and they only paid $100 to get in. So they pretty much times their money by 8. So that feels really good for them. But this thing compounds over and over. And so eventually everyone that's going to be on the bottom line, which will be the most amount of people. So if, for example, 1 million people get paid out by the blessing loom, and those 1 million people are obviously going to be very excited and passionate about the blessing loom, but there are going to be 8 million people that did not get any money who are very mad and pissed off. That's how the blessing loom works, because it's a pyramid. 8 people pay into 1, and then that person is done. But the susu, so you 8 times your money in the blessing room. The susu, on the other hand, everyone pays someone. So if it's just the 3 of us that's doing a susu, and we say, let's say our susu is $1,000, and so we'll pay Seko $1,000. So he will have $2,000, and then we'll pay you $1,000. So you'll have $2,000, and then you guys will pay me $1,000 both, and I'll have $2,000. So everyone technically put in $2,000, and everyone got $2,000. We just got it at different intervals. So one person may get it month 1, the other person get it month 2, the next person get it month 3. You're not multiplying your money. You're just getting it earlier than what you would have. So if maybe you needed money for a daycare, or maybe you needed money to buy a home, or something like that, you would get it earlier. Maybe you wanted to use your money to pay off your credit card balance and not have to pay interest for an entire year. Instead of you having to wait each month, you can pay it off early and save an interest. But that's the difference. The Blessing Loom allows you to multiply your money, and the Susu doesn't. But the Blessing Loom, like I said, a lot of people are going to lose money eventually.
Thank you.
Interesting. You're one of the first people I've heard talk favorably about the Susu, and I've heard about the Susu for decades, but I haven't heard financial folk talk about it. It's like it's the secret.
Yeah.
But you said you went to college off of Susu?
Yes, I was able to pay, help pay my for my master's. And what I would do is I would make sure my hand came at the same time that my semester bill came. So I was able to pay towards it that way. But again, I'm from the Caribbean, and the Caribbean, we didn't have credits. So that was our version of credit. And, and this may be controversial to some people, but we even know in Queens, New York, or a lot of places, a lot of Caribbean people were able to come to the States and buy homes very quickly. And this is one of the reasons they were able to get the down payments for their home, is because they used Susus to do it. And so, back in the day, a Black person may not have had $10,000 to just go buy a home. But, if you were from a culture that did a Susu, every person, even if you were to do it every 3 months, somebody else can potentially buy our home or start looking for their home. As we know, that money has to sit in the bank for a little while.
Wow, that's definitely another flip moment. Every time you drop a gem, I drop the flip. You were flipping over the table. A lot of us get that twisted too. I definitely need to do this because when we use the term African American or we use the term Black, we're not necessarily talking about when we use the term, we're not talking about people from a particular city, state, country, nation. We're not talking about crayon color. We're not talking about somebody's legal status or nationality. We're going to have some people, you ain't a crayon color. We get that. What are the best stocks to buy since Joe Biden seems at this point to be the president-elect?
And so, I think the stocks that I think that are going to do really well under Joe Biden is one, electric vehicle stocks. So that's going to do really well. Chinese stocks that have been being kept down a little due to Trump's, kind of beef with China. I have one stock called JD.com, and that shot up when Joe Biden won as well. Like I said, I made 125% profit off of Aurora. That shot up when Joe Biden won. So the cannabis industry, I think it will do really well under Joe Biden, and alternative energies will probably do very well under Joe Biden, and some international stocks that are solid, like a NEO, would do really well, like a JD.com, like even, Alibaba's been doing well in general as well. Jack Ma just said some stuff that got the Chinese government a little riled up, and so his stock fell a little, but I think ultimately they'll come back and start, performing like how Alibaba has been performing over the last few years as well. And so I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, wow. Okay. You think what?
Huh?
You were saying that you think, and then I cut you off.
Oh, no, I don't even remember what I was going to say.
All good. So look, Shonda Rhimes' $300 million lesson. What is that about, bro?
So you may or may not have heard, but Shonda Rhimes had got signed with Netflix, right? And so one of the things that happened there is that Shonda Rhimes went to the executive of one of Disney's executives. So Disney is one of the partner companies. And one of the perks was they used to give them like a free pass. And she asked for an additional pass. And the executive gave her a hard time to get the additional pass. And so eventually eventually she got the pass, but when her sister came to visit, the pass didn't work. And she called the executive up and said that, hey, the pass isn't working. Can we resolve this? And apparently the executive said, haven't we done enough for you, pretty much? And so she's made this company probably billions of dollars, and just over a potentially $200 pass, this white executive is telling her, didn't we do enough for you? Like she's working for free, or she's not producing what she's supposed to. And so, for her, that was the last straw of like, I'm putting in my sweat. I'm making this company billions, and they don't appreciate my work. I'm gonna go to somewhere else that appreciates my work. And talks about how she called up her lawyer and said, I'm moving to Netflix. It's either y'all make this happen, or I'm gonna get other representation that will make it happen. And so it's all about knowing your worth. A lot of times people keep jobs. And I always say this, like, you can never pay me my worth. You can never pay me my worth. And so if I'm doing a job, and I always pay 150% in. And so if I'm doing a job, it's because that it's something that I'm passionate about and something that I want to see grow, develop, and produce for. But, I don't believe you're paying me necessarily what I'm worth. And that's fine. But don't disrespect me, and don't think that I don't know my own value, And so I remember this saying, they said this white kid and this black kid was like, they were in the park, and the white kid looked at the black kid and said, if only I could pay you for what you think you're worth and sell you for what you're actually worth, I will be a millionaire. And it was just to go to show a lot of people don't know how much you're actually worth. And it's not only that, they settle for less, but then they settle for less and allow people to pretty much disrespect them.
Wow. Shonda Rhimes bossed up. I like that. I wish we would have done that with the politicians recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because when you look at it politically, and I saw that you had something about some of the political things that, Diddy endorsing that particular black party that he was working with. But, truthfully, when we're, quote unquote, the backbone of a political party's success, but when we ask for certain things, that political party recently was like, we'll wait until after happens. We'll wait until after the election. I thought it was kind of interesting when they talked to the Biden-Harris team about immigration. Oh, I got a plan for that in the first 100 days. What about LGBTQIA? Oh, I have something for that for the first 100 days. Oh, well, can you do something that's on our agenda plate, like dealing with this situation that Breonna Taylor? We can talk about that after the election. And we still came out. We still came out in droves. But it would be really interesting when we all get on code, hashtag get on code politically, because then we're going to have some big changes.
And so, it's funny because, a lot of people, and one person I listen to a lot as well is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And a lot of people get on Dr. Boyce because of his current stance right now. They're like, do you support Trump or whatever the case may be? And I'm very practical. And the truth is, people are only really going to listen. And this is an unfortunate thing. And this is something that we need to work with our community with. But people only really listen when things are on fire. So right now, in the midst of a political season, people will listen to even a radical voice. Like, Dr. Boyce would be like, the Democrats haven't really done anything for you guys, or whatever the case may be. But talking about politics outside of like the political cycle, the president's cycle, most people just completely tune that out. And so it's hard to even get people attention. And so that's the hard thing. And that's where I found myself, because personally, I mean, I voted for Biden, and I've encouraged people to vote for Biden. And I haven't spoken out necessarily as much against the Democratic Party, because I really felt like we needed to get Trump out of the White House. But at the same time, I recognize that the Democratic Party has continually and continued to disrespect Black people. And until we take a solid stand, they're going to keep doing that, because it is almost taboo to talk about the Black agenda, to be completely frank about it. Whether it's reparations or whether it's anything else that Black people want. And they've always said, we can't do reparations, that's just impossible. And we just gave the entire country a $1,200 stimulus check. And so we know it's a possibility. But yeah, the Black agenda has never necessarily been moved forward. Now, I'm not someone that necessarily says hold the vote. I say we should be organizing the vote in season and out of season. And I do not see us doing that. We do not organize the votes outside of season. And that's the only thing that will make us effective. And that's one thing that Diddy said that I like. We are not organized, so we can't demand anything. It's either you have an organized voting block or you have dollars. And we're certainly not an organized voting block. So our demands won't be met necessarily.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Tanika. It looks like you had something to say, and I'll get to your statement in just a second. But I couldn't let this moment go. I do think something very interesting happened in this last election season. Dr. Boyce Watkins is involved with the Foundational Black Americans, and I study their work, so that would be Dr. Boyce Watkins, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, Tariq Nasheed, so they're kind of acidic. I get that. They say some things that some people don't like. I get that. But the foundation was, hey, if we're the foundation of your party, then you're going to have to listen to us now. And interestingly enough, people like Ice Cube came out with a contract for Black America. Now, that came out in June. It came out in late June. I actually went through it in July, right? And so you see it in late October when they say, hold up, these foundational Black American folk, these B1 Black First folk, the ADOS people, American descendants of slaves, the descendants of American slaves, the DOAS people, were all saying, hey, you know what? No tangibles, no vote. And I know this for a fact. The people who were running the campaign for the DNC heard about it, because when what was the billionaire's name? Billionaire who went on the stage. He ran for a short period of time back in 2019.
Bloomberg?
Not Bloomberg, but the other one, Tom Stern. Stern. He started saying, look, I hear you guys saying cut the check. It's deeper than that. And then he also said, I have a plan that's going to address the things that the Black community has been talking about. So of course, they got rid of them. Got rid of Bloomberg. Now, Bloomberg, I'm glad let me stop. I didn't like his plan either. I went through his plan, and I didn't think his plan was appropriate. I didn't think that the Lift Every Voice plan that Biden put out in August was appropriate. I like the changes he made later on in September, but it still was an insult. The Trump plan, the Platinum plan, I thought it was cubic zirconia. Because in both of those plans, they said, hey, Black people, we recognize that you had this, and the federal government participated and helped create the disparity in wealth now, and we have these issues, and we're going to solve your problem by helping everybody. You get help, and you get help, and you get help, and you get help. And you're like, hold up. If there's a particular problem in your body, if your body has throat cancer, you can't help that throat cancer by giving an elixir that just helps the whole body. Well, the whole body will get better, but that disparity in health between your knees and your throat is just going to be exacerbated. Well, the throat might get better, but the knees are going to be much better as well. That disparity stays in place. A rising tide lift all boat approach leaves the disparities in place. And so I was insulted by both of their plans. So I found it interesting that yesterday when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I hope I said her name correctly, sister, when they spoke saying that, yeah, we think we won this, he said, the African-American community stood up again for me. They always have had my back, and I'll have yours. I think he was saying, I heard y'all. I almost lost this race because a lot of y'all didn't vote. You know, the ones who were B1, they were like, look, we ain't voting without tangibles. Foundational Black Americans, we ain't voting without tangibles. ADOS, they said, we're going to vote down ballot Democrat. We're going to leave the top of the ticket alone. If those other groups would have voted and possibly voted for the Biden-Harris team, the win would have been easy. There were at least 100,000 votes that didn't happen because the Democrat Party and the Republican Party didn't answer our call. And I think, like you said, when we start organizing, I think it's happening now. I think it's happening now.
No, and that's one of the things that I really liked about, and I know a lot of people, and for me, like, I'm someone, like I said, wanted Trump out. I wanted Trump out. But I understand politics as well, to the point where I understand that, and I'm someone that firmly believes there would be Martin, MLK wouldn't have been able to accomplish as much as he did if there was not a Malcolm. And so those opposing voice that kind of draws people to extremes get people to listen, and so I'm someone that believes that you don't always put all of your dirty laundry out there. And so all of your strategic plan of, how your community is going to advance, but you need sometimes those people that are saying, if you guys don't do what we're asking for, then we're going to go far right. And, I was even saying that, I think personally, it's a good thing that even, I can get kicked out of the church for this, especially a Black church. But I think it's a good thing, even the Black people who were so fed up and voted for Trump. And I say that because it makes the Black vote now something you have to cater to a little more. Like it's not just guaranteed, And so I think it's perfect that we won. That's what I wanted. But I think when you have people that are saying, "Hey, you're gonna have to work for it," people have to start acting a little differently. And I think those are beautiful things.
I agree, Taniki. I know you had something to say. I'm sorry.
No,
I went off on my political tangent.
No, I didn't. I know for myself, I myself pulled away from the Democratic Party and went neutral. And it's just because, again, you notice that they made promises that they really never held on to for the Black community. So again, I liked your post, Seiko, when you said that, when you reposted what Joe Biden has said, and I pray again that this showed us that our voices do matter. So people that was telling people not to vote, that really was discouraging, because this did really show our votes do count. It does matter, because again, we came out in numbers and we got Joe Biden in there. I just hope that they do what they're supposed to do. But like the brother said, we have to participate more than just when it's the presidential election. We have to show up. And I learned that, Seiko, with helping you when you were running, that it takes us up for us to be more aggressive and involved at every election, no matter who is running.
Ashe to that. Ashe. But we're talking about finance tonight. Dude and his wife paid off $120,000. And what's interesting, and I'm going to mix these two together, you paid that off using leverage. You took the resources using in one place and you stacked them up like you were making a ramp, and then you were able to walk up that ramp into no debt. You know what I'm saying? You use leverage. And politically, we really just showed both parties, hey, we got leverage. So now we got to work on it. But so what are some other things that, some other fantastic money stories, man? Because I'm looking at your YouTube page, and, you have videos on stocks to buy now, Okay.
Would you also
Black-owned
say you use
businesses.
strategies? Would you also say you use strategies?
Yeah, no, and I always say, I believe in the KISS, keep it simple, stupid, and so I don't believe like you need complex strategies in order to pay off debt or build wealth. And so, I use the debt snowball in order to pay off my debt. List your debt from lowest to highest and pay off the lowest one first and move down the track. And it's as simple as that. I think the biggest thing is staying motivated throughout the entirety of paying off debt. And I think, having someone to kind of help you is beautiful. I have a wife, so she can help me when I'm feeling like I'm tired of this whole paying off debt thing, and I can help her. And because we definitely went through those seasons where it's like, let's splurge a little, we make a good income, let's live a little. But it's like, okay, what are our goals, baby? And what are our goals, honey? And so accountability is another huge part of it. And so I tell people, if you're not married or in a relationship, find a financial accountability partner, someone that's kind of on the same type of mindset as you to help you on this journey, because it's not an easy one, especially when you see everyone on social media living a semblance of what may look like a good life. But as if we're in Texas, they say "big hat, no cattle," or that they have the fanciest hat, but they have nothing in the store, and a lot of people are house poor, so they may have a house. Most people probably don't even have a house, but that's the saying that they may have a house, but they have no money, and one thing go wrong, a pandemic, they may lose it. They have a fancy car, but they don't have a house, and not because they choose not to. And so like I said, discipline is such an important part of it. And again, something you can probably get in trouble for, but I think that's why a lot of people don't build wealth, is because it takes discipline, especially starting off. It really does. And a lot of people aren't able to delay gratification in the way that it's necessary to build wealth. But you don't need a lot of money to do it. And that's what I always tell people. You don't need a lot of money. Just need a little bit of discipline.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, brother. You said a couple of things that can get you in trouble with the church. I think you're in good company, man, because think about it. Dr. Martin Luther King was kicked out of the church because he was telling them we need to do these things. They were like, nah, y'all gonna get us all in trouble. And so he was kicked out of his church. You know what I'm saying? So you're in good company, bro. If they kick you out, you're in good company. But you look at urban finance as a ministry. How so?
And so I honestly believe, and I posted something during the election, and it was pretty much that I wish we as a community was just as passionate about politics and getting people elected to the presidency as we were to building our economic base. Yes. And because one, I think if we were to be that passionate, about economic advancement, even the church, we've sent out so many bulletins, get out the vote. I think our denomination has done an extraordinary job of helping to get out the vote. We are a huge in Pennsylvania. And so we were doing phone banking. And so, it's just a smooth, well-run, get out the vote operation, and it works. And Biden is going to become president, and maybe our community will get something from it. I personally won't hold my breath about it, but I'm a man of faith, so I'm optimistic. But I don't expect necessarily to get anything out of it. And so we do all of that with a chance of potentially getting no return as a community, as a collective. But here, about teaching finance, educating each other about finance, no email blasts about how to set up a budget, no email blasts about investing in the stock market. And so why can't we as a community, as just being Black, or as a church, be as passionate about economic empowerment as we are about voting? Yes. And I wouldn't even say political empowerment, I would say voting. Yep. And I see it as a ministry because, it talks about Jeremiah being that sound in the wilderness. I want to be that voice for Black community, but also for the Black church to say, hey, I think we should at least put this economic empowerment thing in the same level as we put voting. And again, I can't even, where we're at, where our political actually ability to influence policy, I can't even say empowerment, because it's really about voting for politics. But we can get people good financially. I truly believe it. And I believe it's one way God has enabled me to help people. Like, I feel like I can really make a difference in people's lives through this economic stuff. And that, for me, that's what ministry is about, helping people and making a difference in their life. And so I view this as my ministry. I also, it's something that I would do for free as well.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So you talked about Dave Ramsey's publicized baby steps. And we all realize he wasn't the first one to use that term or that concept, but he's popularized it. I've gone through Financial Peace University 2.5 times, my wife and I, and we actually took our kids with us the second time around, and it was really interesting. So my son, he was, I want to say he was in kindergarten, and we were in the class, and they talked about a mortgage using the term mort, which meant death, and age, which meant, for the rest of an age, so you're dead for a period of time, and it could be a long age. And my son said, that sounds stupid that you would tie yourself to debt. And I was like, whoa. But anyway, Financial Peace University, I recommend it highly for anybody. You mentioned that you use the baby steps. I saw that you have a video that says, are the baby steps still relevant? Do they still make sense? But then I see this IG post and you say, pay off the high interest credit cards first. So what do I do second?
And so I would say pay off the high interest credit cards first. And then second, definitely get at least the match. And so that's something that I would say is different from Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey wants you to pay off all of your debts before you even take the company match. And for me, the company match is 100% interest pretty much. And there's no reason to leave that on the table unless you're living behind on your bill. So for example, unless you're living way above your means. And I say that to say that if you're making $1,000 and the expenses is $1,500 a month, then you probably should just be focused on paying off a debt. But if you have some wiggle room in your budget, I would take that match. I would add that match in there because that's free money on the table.
Intriguing. What's the difference between an asset and a liability for the uninitiated?
And so, one the rich dad, poor dad is the asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, and the liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. And so from that standpoint, and I don't fully necessarily agree with that theology, I would call it, but from that standpoint, it's, even your home, since that takes money out of your pocket, in that sense, will be a liability. And and that's the one thing that I've always focused on, building assets, what can produce income. And I love passive income. So I try to focus on various ways to build passive income. And I think that's the wave of the future, building out various streams of passive income.
All right, well, we're going to start wrapping up, man. You've dropped a lot of gems. You've given us a lot to think about. All your success coaches are workaholics. All right. Okay. You got to drop this gem on it. What does this, what are you saying with this?
And just to be honest, I mean, everyone's different, and me personally, and I tell my wife this all the time. My wife is one of the smartest people that I know, and she's in generally like, a very smart person. And so she was at the top of her class from high school all the way up. She went to Spelman. She was at the top of her class at Spelman. She has a PhD from Harvard, a master's and PhD from Harvard in biostatistics.
You married up.
Way up. And so she's done her stuff, and, not to say that she can just lay back now and sit back, but, if she was choose to sit back, then that would be fine, because she worked. My only path to real success is through hard work. My only path to extreme success is through hard work. And the people that I follow, their path to success was through extremely hard work. And so that means even after I'm done with church on a Sunday, making sure I make time to do a podcast at almost 9 p.m. in the night, and that I know will get me to the next level. I'm confident of it.
So all your success coaches are workaholics. I get it.
So if I want success, I got to follow in that line. And that's for me. Some people may have different paths, but I know that's a surefire way to give me the success that I want in my life.
All right. That's what's up. Sister Taniki, why don't you tell everybody what you do and how people can get in contact with you?
Okay, my name is Taniki Riddick. I am a financial educator as well. I am with a company called My Econ, where we teach you not only financial education strategy, but we also provide you with the tools. My email address is, or my website is www.triddick, that's TRIDDICK, myecon.net, and that stands for your economy. We believe in making sure that you are educated enough to take control of your own economy. You can't believe in the government or the president to take care of your economy. You have to take control of it yourself.
Okay. And so they can go on their site, your site. I see you right here.
Yeah.
And they can see about the products and services. So you have an ID. Go ahead.
Yes. Our products, the ID Defender, which is something I believe everyone should have, is identity theft protection. Cyber, people stealing people information over the internet is huge now. So you should really, protect your identity. We have travel membership, the cashback mall. This just overall helps you to control your economy, your finances. We believe in the cash flow manager that puts you in control of understanding your finances. To me, it's like an electronic financial tool. My credit system that teaches you how to repair your own credit. I've seen plenty of times where people spend a lot of money paying others to do something. No one should be in charge of your money or know more about your finances than you. That my credit system actually gives you everything you need and educates you on how to repair your credit, build it, and maintain it. Again, everything that is all the jewels that the brother dropped. We really believe in that. We empower people with it to really take control of your economy. I love it. I'm just blessed to be here. Deuteronomy 8:18 says that God gave us the power. He didn't say he was going to give us wealth. He said he gave us the power to build wealth, and we have to take that power and do something with it.
Preach.
Brother Caden, let the church say.
Amen.
All right, y'all are slow on that. Y'all are slow. Let the community say Ashe. So I wanted to say a few things. This is Black Friday, the movie by Rick Mathis. Black Friday. Have you seen this, Caden?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh man, this talks about it's a DVD, and it talks about how we spend our money in a way that keeps us broke.
Hmm.
And for you churchy folk, this is a great one called Generation One.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, Generation One, the search for Black wealth. It actually goes through and brings up some of the lessons you can find in the canonized Bible dealing with wealth. One of the things that I've learned is when you look at, if we look at just the Abrahamic religions, if you look at the Hebrew culture and their Torah proper, there are sections in the Torah proper that tells the Hebrews how to lend money, how to run businesses. It says don't charge interest to a fellow Hebrew or Jew. It says that when you charge interest, you do it in a way where the person can get out of debt in 7 years. It teaches a whole lot of things. And there are also hidden references in the canonized Bible, and all of that and more you can find, of course, in Dave Ramsey's course. You can find by following you online, and you can find in Generation One, the search for Black wealth. So I wanted to show those. Any last things about what you bring to the table, brother? I know we looked at your IG page, we looked at your Twitter page, we looked at your YouTube channel. Is there anything that people can tap into, tap in that you offer that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
Yeah, so first I'll say, shamelessly plug my YouTube page again. The YouTube page is Urban Finance, or youtube.com/Urban Finance. Certainly check it out. Have several videos coming out. The next one I'm thinking this is my next video, how I'm investing $5,500 in November, and what I'm going to put that money into. And the other thing, you can check me out at theurbanfinance.com. That's my website. If you are a part of any type of organizations, I do financial workshops. You can check out the website to find out more. And I do one-on-one coaching if you need to talk about building wealth or paying off debt. Check out the website, theurbanfinance.com.
All right, let's find that. The Urban Finance. I hope I can spell it correctly because everybody's watching me. All right. I'm liking what I'm seeing. All right. Your services. Let's go to that very quickly. And what can you provide? Individual family planning and coaching. Individual financial planning and mentoring. Okay. Okay, for institutions. Okay. Coaching, mentoring for institutions. Wow. Workshops and speaking engagements, and side hustle. Okay. All right, and they can book a 15-minute free consultation right there on your website, right?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Good. So let me enlarge that so everybody can see what we're looking at, and it's not enlarging the way I want it to. So I just put your email up here, newurbanfinance@gmail.com.
And
okay.
Designed by Seymour Creatives. Give her a shout out as well. Black-owned melanated business.
That's what's up. We need more of those. Definitely more of those. Any last words, Brother Caden?
No, it was just good being here with you, Taniki. Certainly some joy. Looking forward to staying connected with both of you guys. Seko, thank you for the invite. Certainly won't be the last time I'm in touch with you guys, and look forward to building this wealth as a community, man, because it's important. The work that you're doing right now is so important.
Ashe. Well, hey, everyone stay on code. And as I said before, we do credit fixes, tax resolutions, we lend private money, and debt consolidation. Here's one of the recent deals I did with one of my clients. He purchased it from a family member, $33K. It needed $58,000 in repairs. Our firm was able to provide him with 90% of the acquisition. In other words, 90% of the purchasing amount, and we gave him 100% of the rehab costs. This is happening right now in Maryland. they're making that money because we got to do stuff like this. We got to do stuff like that. Somebody paid for us because we have to change this. This is one of the things that we got to deal with. This is real. And it's going to take more than just, being upset. It's going to take more than just prayers. We're going to have to put some other resources behind fighting that situation. Salute Ida Wells. We're going to have to protect ourselves, right? And so if you're going to protect yourself, you're going to have to be able to purchase it. All right. Salute that queen. She was a G. And I just want to salute Caden. Thank you for coming on. Taniki, thank you for your leadership. I'm learning a lot under you. This queen right here.
We're building together.
I say it. All right.
All
right. Well, we'll talk with everybody later. Get on code. Get on code. Get on code.